Paradox Interactive have a plethora of strategy gaming franchises that all deserve the many plaudits foisted upon them. Today we are looking at a select few of them, 3 of the history titles. While all these franchises have a few games under their belts, I'm going to be primarily focusing on their latest entries. I've picked these because while games like Cities Skylines and Stellaris are both popular games, it is the history titles that I think Paradox is most well known for. So, where is Victoria and Imperator Rome, you may be asking? Despite the fact that Vicky 3 is now finally confirmed, at the time of this video, the latest Victoria game is over 11 years old, and it is starting to show its age, so that didn't seem fair. As for Imperator Rome, I mean, do you really need a video asking if Imperator Rome is as good as the others? Really? Okay, I guess. Here goes. Well, now that's been covered, we can move on to today's real video. I'm Strat Tom, and I'm asking, which is better? Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, or Hearts of Iron? Before we get started in earnest, how am I grading these? It's simple really. I've got 5 categories, and in each category I'm going to award a gold, silver and bronze. Gold is worth 3 points, silver 2 and bronze 1. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. Number 1. Warfare. War is a huge part, if not the most important part, of all 3 of these games. When I first played Crusader Kings, I loved the way that armies were raised. Most strategy games had us trapped in the simple idea of raising resources and then clicking on soldiers in a recruitment tab, and then there they are. In Crusader Kings, the amount of men you can levy depends on the size and development of the lands that you control. Vassals who don't like you will always find ways to duck giving you what they owe in terms of both tax and manpower. If your lands are thriving, then manpower will be plentiful. If not, then you might find yourself with a shortage of peasants to fight in your armies. The realistic complexity and variety of factors that go into raising an army is one thing that I love about Crusader Kings. Yes, battles mostly go down to who has the biggest army, and I do wish there was more I could do in actually controlling a battle, Total War style. But hey, you can't have everything. Europa Universalis is a little less complex in this regard. There are 3 unit types: infantry, cavalry and artillery. As your technology develops, so do your unit types. But the 3 archetypes stay roughly the same. Striking the right balance between the 3 unit types is important to your success on the battlefield, but it is all a little simple, to be quite honest. In terms of raising armies, well, you do just click on units in a recruitment tab and then they appear. Hearts of Iron 4, like with many people, was my introduction to the HOI franchise, and yeah, it did take a while to come to grips with it. But now that I vaguely understand it all after roughly 700 hours in the game, I do love it. I wish that the logistic side of warfare could be tackled in more games. You see, in Hearts of Iron, simply raising troops is not enough. World War II was an industrial war, and you're going to need to keep an eye on your industry. Having hundreds of thousands of men deployed on the battlefield is useless if they don't have guns or ammo. Also, the frontline style of combat in HOI 4 is far more dynamic than the other 2 games, where armies just clash and one side wins and the other retreats. I feel like terrain, unit types and fortifications are more important in Hearts of Iron. There's also the addition of air support, which is hugely important. So, when it comes to matters of the military, I'm giving Hearts of Iron the gold, Crusader Kings the silver, and Europa Universalis the bronze. Number 2. Diplomacy. Diplomacy is a captivating part of Crusader Kings. Family and marriage play a definitive role in the politics of the medieval world, and Crusader Kings does it very well. One of the most intriguing parts of Crusader Kings is deftly managing your family and using them and their relationships to craft alliances, either abroad or perhaps even within your own kingdom. Turning a potential rival for power into your son-in-law can be a great way to quell internal dissent. Europa Universalis is set during a time where international diplomacy was referred to as the stately quadrille, a reference to a dance where partners would swap and shift, but the dance would keep going. I think EU4 reflects this expertly. I adore this part of Europa Universalis. The combat was a bit simplistic, yes, but keeping an eye on your rivals and allies and ensuring that neither of them become too big or powerful is key to ensuring your own dominance. The way Europa Universalis makes you manage your relationships with your vassals, colonial nations, or personal unions is also simple enough to manage, but complex enough to be meaningful and worthwhile. Lastly, Hearts of Iron is a game that focuses largely on World War II. While smaller proxy wars do happen independently, sometimes, the main focus is the one big conflict. Hearts of Iron doesn't have much in the way of nations making a separate white peace. No, it seems like once you are in a faction, which you ideally need to be unless you are one of the biggest nations, well then that's that. Once your faction gets sucked into a war, there's no stopping it until either you or your enemy is utterly wiped out. The other two games are set over much longer periods, so losing a war is a setback and winning a war is a boon, but neither means game over. Because of this, Hearts of Iron doesn't have much in the way of diplomacy. Plus, the post-war settlements usually lead to messy border gore rather than cohesive nations. For diplomacy, I'm giving Europa Universalis the gold, Crusader Kings the silver, and Hearts of Iron the bronze. Number 3. Characters. All three games are without anything resembling a story. The simple objective to all of them is to take a nation and to make it the biggest, richest, or most powerful nation in the world, or some variation thereof. However, that does not mean that stories cannot be told. Crusader Kings 3 is particularly excellent for this. Crusader Kings is as much about the inner machinations of your dynastic family as it is about war and conquest. Managing the differing and often at odds personalities of your family and their lords and vassals is a key part of the game. During your playthrough, life events will happen and it is up to you to decide how your character reacts. The most seemingly innocuous decision can have huge consequences down the line. I once had a playthrough where my character noticed that his daughter was particularly sadistic towards peasants, but given that she was my daughter, I kinda let it slide. As she grew into an adult, I eventually discovered that she was the cause of a spate of accidents that led to numerous deaths in my court. My own daughter had to be executed for the murder of her stepmother and unborn sibling, along with a number of others. This isn't a scripted event. On another playthrough, I would have had different characters, doing different things. Crusader Kings is as much a role-playing game as it is a strategy one, and I love it. On the other end of the spectrum is Europa Universalis. I have never once felt anything resembling attachment to characters in EU4. Your leaders are nothing but names on a menu and stats. If they have good stats, then yay. If not, oh well, hope the next one's better. Hearts of Iron has some story to it. The use of national focuses can create some interesting tales if they're not a little on the rails. Sure, you do get to choose which rails you follow, but still, on the rails. That's not to say they're not interesting. In particular, I love playing Hearts of Iron with historical AI focuses turned off, and then seeing what crazy alternate history stories develop over my game. There was something sinister about playing through a communist revolution of Britain and having the royals shipped out the back door and mysteriously disappear. Sorry, Liz. For characters, I'm giving the gold to Crusader Kings, the silver to Hearts of Iron, and the bronze to Europa Universalis. Number 4. The world. The global nature of these games is what makes them feel so unbelievably epic. Crusader Kings having a medieval setting obviously does not include the Americas, but it is still a vast map. Yet, given the more insular gameplay of Crusader Kings, you rarely get the chance to explore it all in a single playthrough. Usually, you just stick to your own little corner of the world. That being said, the vast amount of details that goes into the various counties, duchies and kingdoms is breathtaking, and the design of the map in-game is exquisite, particularly the zoomed out tabletop map. One thing that I adore about Europa Universalis is the ability to explore the vast world in which it is set. The game is set during the age of colonialism, and so sending explorers and settlers out into the world to claim a vast colonial empire is a key facet of the game. I love how the names of the regions and nations on the map change to reflect your culture. The Ottomans may take Constantinople from the Byzantines, but henceforth the map will read Constantinini, a pronunciation I am likely butchering. Exploring is key to EU4, and it does an excellent job of making it an engaging and worthwhile experience. A sense of nationalism and ideology gives the world of Hearts of Iron a feeling that is unique. Being set during the Second World War, it is only right that Hearts of Iron makes its world feel truly global. The vast nations and factions that they make up, depending on their differing ideologies, create a truly global conflict. What happens in North Africa or the Far East can have consequences for soldiers fighting in Europe. The fact is that all three games and the game worlds that they have created have their merits. In the other categories, I've had a clear favourite, and I've pointed out obvious weaknesses. Just know that, for the game worlds, I love all three. But, that being said, I'm going to give the gold to Europa Universalis, the silver to Hearts of Iron, and the bronze to Crusader Kings. Number 5. Mods. One thing that makes Paradox games so amazing is not just the work that the developers do, but also the fans. I am about to discuss the pros and cons of these games and their available mods, but just know that if you are a person who creates these kinds of things, that I am in awe of the work that you do. To create something so complex and to do it in your own time, my hat's off to you guys and gals. The Crusader Kings format lends itself to fantasy mods. Crusader Kings 3 already has an early days Lord of the Rings mod, and I cannot wait until we get a Game of Thrones mod like we had for Crusader Kings 2. Apparently, it is in development. I've also previously covered the Shogunate mod looking at feudal Japan. Any era, fictional or historical, that deals with war and politics in equal measure is a prime candidate for a CK mod, and I'm all here for it. EU4 has some total overhaul mods, but most of the famous fantasy worlds that could be modded into games often fit with the medieval model of Crusader Kings better. That's not to say that there aren't any great Europa Universalis mods, however they are mostly quality of life mods, rather than unique worlds or campaigns. Hearts of Iron boasts some of the most excellent mod experiences I've ever seen, not just out of Paradox titles. Entire alternate histories like Kaiserreich are absolutely incredible. The mods that change the timelines, such as the Great War mod or the Road to 56, do an amazing job of updating tech trees and national focuses to fit in with the new worlds. Other fictional worlds, such as the Fallout games, have also been included in Hearts of Iron mods. Hearts of Iron 4 is an excellent game in its own right, but the sheer number and variety of mods that are available mean that it has hundreds, if not thousands of hours of replay value. For mods, I'm giving the gold to Hearts of Iron, the silver to Crusader Kings, and the bronze to Europa Universalis. And so that's that. All three of these titles are fantastic, and I, and most likely you if you're watching this video, have put hundreds of hours into all three of them. If you're not one of those people, and you're watching this to see if you should dip your toe into the paradox strategy world, well then I would strongly recommend all three. Beware though, they will eat up all your time. But which, in my humble opinion, is best? Coming in third place with 9 points is Europa Universalis. Second place with 10 points is Crusader Kings. And today's winner with 11 points is Hearts of Iron. Thank you so much for watching. Please put your own breakdowns, or if you can't be arsed with that, just your thirds, seconds and firsts, in the comments below. If there are any other game series you want me to rank, then also in the comments below please. Until next time, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I've been Strat Tom, and I'll see you next time.